Good morning, my name is Anna Lashuk, and today in my presentation I would like to focus on the communicative nature of the post-truth phenomenon as well as its impact on the political language. To do so, first of all, I will begin with the general discussion of post-truth with regard to lying and untruth, and then I will go on with portraying the types of the post-truth political actors and their rhetorical styles. To start with, in an attempt to portray our political era, whose characteristics is the prevalence of lying, the following comments of Hannah Arendt, a famous philosopher of the previous century, and her followers like Peg Birmingham are going to be given. They both mentioned that we are living in a difficult period of dark times, which could be mentioned like a lying world. And the trouble is that we live in the period when it is difficult to discuss where is the truth and where is the lie. The prevalence of lying in politics is considered to be a big threat, but it is assumed that not the trouble is that we are living in the period of lying, but the trouble is in the incapacity of people to judge what is real, what is not real, what is true, what is untrue. Post-truth can be characterized as the communicative process of careless speech in which facts and analytical conclusions are less convenient, that ready-made political subjective interpretation that offers a certain holistic picture of the world, which emotionally resonates with what a person's beliefs are. The post-truth umbrellas such terms as misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, fake news, rumor bombs, and lying. I would like to talk more about this scheme, and my belief is that post-truth umbrellas the terms populism and demagoguery, and everything which is in the upper part of the scheme is based on the general problem of lying and the inability to distinguish the sense of what is a fact, and the idea of the fact is meant by what is true, but not anything what is like the object of the reality in a number. So if to go lower from lying, that's the trouble of the loss of the sense of fact and of factual truth, which can lead to a trust crisis between the members of political communication. And an element of the trust crisis is that people who participate in political communication, they do not have trust to the credibility of the opponent, and they accept every piece of information which they hear with suspicion, which means that lie has already poisoned the normal ability of people to distinguish lies from the truth, or vice versa, the truth from lies. Communication in the post-truth society enables the appearance of social media world netizens, which are resistant to factual truth. They lack critical thinking skills and generally ignore factual arguments, and it leads to self-delusions and the feeling that they are able of themselves sharing content which is as a fact is unchecked or is an example of disinformation or misinformation, but people do not care about checking the truth, whether it is the true information or not. So they have this willingness to become active actors of post-truth communication. And at the same time, they bring a lot of personal selfish motives and goes into political sphere, and it all in as a whole blur the distinction between the truth and the lies again. Now let's give a closer look to their rhetoric practice of the post-truth political actors. And according to their linguistic behavior, they can be classified to liars, bullshitters, populists, demagogues, mythmakers, believers. We are going to work with the four first categories a little bit more in detail, and because of that, let me say some words about the mythmakers and the believers. The believer is a political actor who is developing his own privileged relation to truth and lies. And more than that, they start to believe in the lie they create. The myth makers, they create and then transmit the prevailing worldview, which can be rather uncritical and based on the unchecked facts. But the myth makers, they can also make their own input into creating a new distorted reality. So, a little bit more in detail about the bullshitters and the liars. They are fundamentally different and at the same time have a bit in common, definitely. So, the bullshitter is different from the liar in the way that the liar knows the truth, carefully takes attention from the truth if he needs, uses different tactics which are based on distorting and passing facts, jingling and cherry-picking facts when they need that. So the liar sets the ground for the blurring the distinction between the reality and fiction. Bullshitter, he doesn't care about the truth as it is. The truth ultimately doesn't matter for him or her. He is not interested in distinction between factual information and falsehood. Bullshitter talks about anything with no knowledge, but rather persuasively and confidently, and he is directly using convenient and fabricated facts to gain trust and credibility in his political communication. On the following slides, you may have a look at the examples how some politicians can be considered either a bullshitter or a liar. And then I would like to talk more about these two terms of populism and demagoguery, and as a result we have two types of political actors like populists and demagogues. So the term post-truth umbrellas populism and demagoguery, and why these concepts are related and why they are dangerous for the truthful society. So populism is a political ideology that seeks to represent the interests of the common people, and that is like the positivity of the term. But at the same time, populists, they are used. In other words, populism and demagoguery are two political terms which could be used interchangeably, but they have different meanings. The same way, populists and demagogues, they can be used to describe a very close concepts of two political actors, but still there are some differences. A populist leader seeks to connect with the people and understand their needs and concerns. How he does that is a little bit under the question, because he is using calls for collective action, for social justice, because he is exploiting distinction between the pure people and evil allies. So his political rhetoric is directed at crowd pleasing through giving the promises which are often impossible to fulfill. Demagogues, they are mainly use fear, anger, and hatred to gain support and power. They are leaders who use emotional appeals and propaganda to manipulate the masses. But both are using the same techniques, which could be mentioned as demagogic techniques, and they are like fear-mongering, inflammatory language, lack of evidence, personal attacks. There are some examples on this slide which you can follow later. Let me finish today's presentation with the idea that it is possible to relate modern politics to self-deception. Political actors become victims of the image they created, fostering themselves to be different, and they truly believe that they are different and they are doing good for the society. And at the same time, they are constantly, systematically using blatant lies. Their political speech is increasingly detached from the factual infrastructure. They believe in the distorted reality they are channeling. And all political actors, like the participants of the post-truth communication, they are temporarily in the trust crisis, which is caused by confusion, suspicion, anger, and disorientation of all participants of the communication who are poisoned by the lies which are everywhere, and it is difficult to understand what is true, and who is the one who is the leader. Thank you.